All right, ladies and gentlemen, we decided we needed to spend another half hour. I mean, generally that is what we do with just about everybody. And everybody does have lots of information. But as I analyze what we've done on that first show, we didn't get through any of my questions because this guy is so knowledgeable. I said more questions. More. Who doesn't get involved with everybody? Everybody has some impact, reflection, something to do with automotive. You're just not going to get around on our planet unless you have. I mean, even if it's just because you don't own a car and you Uber everywhere, or you live down in the city, but you still get on some kind of a train to go everywhere. I mean, automobiles, different from automation, but they literally, like in the Midwest, I have a lot of people are going, everybody owns a car out here. I'm like, well, yeah, to a large extent, and you're shaking your head. But if you live down in the city, in some major cities, you don't have to have a car. But if you're anywhere further out in the county, you have to walk 3 or 4 miles to get anywhere.
Well, and that's the thing about that. If you do use the metro, or you do use one of the, whether you use the bus system or the train system, different cities have the different setups like that. But still, if you want to go anywhere outside of that system setup, you're either going to have to rent a car or borrow a car or have a vehicle. One way, shape, form. There's no way around it. And that's where people like us come in because, like I said on the previous show, cars aren't like people. They don't have emotions. They don't pick and choose where they want to break down. They don't pick and choose when they want to stop. They don't pick and choose when you want to be at work, the grocery store, church. And I get a lot of that. People will call me from the church parking lot. Hey, are you available on Sunday? We are 24/7 mechanics. And I get calls at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Hey, we're at church and the car is making a funny shaking sound. We're going to be here for 3 hours. Can you come? We get it all the time.
Wow. Yeah, just so like we talked about, everybody, if you missed that first show, tons of great information there. Cliff is literally one of the best experts you'll find. I've dealt with that personally. Watch that first show where I talk about the car that I bought that we later found out had been stolen. The VIN had been modified, and they didn't catch it till a year later. And because I went through the proper channels, they paid me back 100% of my car's cost when I bought it. It worked out. But that's why you do things the right way. That's why you work with the right people. You don't do. I had another friend. I'm not even joking. I won't tell her because people might figure out where he's coming through. So we'll just leave it at that. But I talked to him. He goes, "You're not going to believe what happened. I bought a car from a guy, and it got stolen. It turns out later it was stolen, and they did the same thing. Apparently, this VIN modification thing is something. They do it on the door, and they do it on the glass. But then if you start analyzing beyond that, who does that when they buy a car? Let me check all the VINs, right? You figure this is, but this happened. He had not. He bought it in a personal sale. So in doing so, he had no recourse.
Right.
Because you got to go track down that guy who sold the car, had the title. Here you go.
Yep.
And because I went through my dealer broker, friend of mine, Joe, just texted me a minute ago. We're going to introduce you guys because you guys should work together. And then they went through the big auction house. The auction house ultimately, because the dealer said, "Hey, this wasn't our fault. You're the one who brought it in. You guys didn't analyze this closely enough."
Right.
And they did a great job, actually. It was a pretty hard thing to detect, but it got through. And they said, "Oh, well, this is 1 out of a million or whatever it was."
Right.
And they did a great job to rectify that and fix it and give me my money back and play, because they do millions of cars. And it's easy to imagine that this does happen once every.
Oh, it does.
300 cars, 500 cars, 10,000 cars, whatever number. What would you estimate? I mean, as much as you know about that, is that something, you're the mechanic, but people pull out the windshield and do this kind of modifications?
It's not even that people pull out the windshield. Where the VIN is at on that dash placard, it's actually riveted into the form of the car with a certain type of rivet. And the car industry doesn't like people talking about it. They just don't, because it's a certain type of rivet that is done by the manufacturer. So if you've gone somewhere where the car has been remade or was wrecked and redone, and it's got one VIN sticker on the door, I used to tell people whenever we would do certain body shop jobs, if we would replace a door and the sticker, the VIN placard was on the door, I would pull the one off of that door. And they'd be like, "Why are you doing that?" "Well, because it's a VIN off of another vehicle that's been wrecked. This is not your VIN." And so you'd pull it off of there. Your VIN is now on your dash, and that's the main place you can get it. Certain manufacturers, they put VINs in different places. We're not going to go into all of that, but they do.
Yeah,
They put them on the engine blocks. They put them in the engine compartment. They put them in the rear of the car. And if the vehicle's ever stolen or something ever happens wrong, the police and the authorities and the proper channel people know where to go look on that car to say, this is your VIN. Have you ever gone to your insurance company to go get insurance for your car and they call you back 5 minutes later? Hey, we either transposed a number or we got a digit wrong. This is not saying this is what you're telling us the year of your vehicle is. And I actually had it happen about 10 years ago where the VIN on the door, it was supposed to be a 7. It looked like a 1. So when we gave him the VIN number, it didn't match what it was. When we went to the dash one and pulled it and actually zoomed in on it, you could see it was a 7. And then when you went back to the door, you could see it was a 1. And it was like, uh-oh. So then we had to get the DMV involved. Everybody else had to be involved because it had actually been a 1 in the system with the Department of Motor Vehicles for the past 4 years. But as a vehicle, it was a 7 in that numerical spot. So yeah, it can get kind of hinky.
Wow. So there's a lot that goes on in this automotive world, and I didn't expect. Well, I guess I should. Cliff knows so much, as I can tell already. He's dealt with this. Been there,
done it, seen it
as well. And again, I got to give a shout out to the Highway Patrol because I did go out to the Highway Patrol. Most people know the location off 94. I've never been there before because I stay out of trouble. But that's also, I don't think they necessarily have a holding cell there. They just have, that's where a lot of the officers are at and their cars are at. And it was cool. I got to know these guys. I know a lot of them because I do work with the police on the patrol all the time on fun stuff to say, good job. You guys they saved my life years ago. That's why I do that. But they helped make sure I got into an ambulance. They were there at the scene. I would not be alive today if it wasn't for the awesome work that they did. But I got to talk to a guy who I won't mention because he mentioned, now I do some work that is outside of the normal realm. I'll just leave it at that. And because there's things that have to be done behind the scenes kind of thing. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
And so he said, don't tell my name, but if you'd like to have our discussion with our group, I'd say, yeah, let's bring those guys on and talk about how well they handled this particular situation.
Right.
And I was never any fear of any consequence because I didn't do anything other than I didn't even know this happened until they called me.
Right.
But it all got handled. They took it and they said, hey, sorry, we got to take your car, but go through the channels. And he even told me, he says, here's what they're going to do. Here's what they have to pay you. This is the rules.
Yep.
And I Google searched and verified he knew what he was talking about. And they really did a great job. Kudos to all those guys. We really appreciate our police and our enforcement that keeps us. People are always trying to get away with something. Not everybody, but a few people out there. I've studied this a little bit. It's like 1 out of 100 people is by definition a psychopath. Believe this or not.
In one way, shape, form, or another.
If you look at the particular behavior, and it's usually something that's so self-consuming, kind of you can tell. But those people like to help other people. They're on the opposite side of the spectrum. And
they will do anything in their power to get over on somebody.
Yeah. And the people that like to help are the other end of that, and that's what we like to focus on, and those people like to help, because that's a better lifestyle. That's a better strategy for life. I talk about that. Cliff adopts that same strategy, obviously, going out of his way to help people and saying, here's how you could have gotten taken advantage of. Here's what we're going to come here. We're going to fix this for. So let's dive into that a little bit. You talked a little bit. There are other options out there. The one I like to focus on for your benefit, I think, is what I'm interested in as a consumer. When you're going to and I love my mechanics shops, and there's a place for that. But if you've got this kind of an emergency thing, and even overall, I don't forget I dealt with this. My girlfriend's car was having an issue. I knew I could fix the part, but I had to get a certain kind of wrench or whatever. The guy says, I've got that wrench. I'll come over to your house and do it. And it never worked out.
Right.
And I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was a mechanic that would come to my house? Holy cow, there is such a thing. Tell me some of the other benefits. And I guess you would say also, likewise, when you told me, like for my car to get the new lane assist fixed, you would not recommend I do that myself or have yourself go to the
yes.
There
are
certified repair shop.
There are certain things that have to be done at repair shops. There are certain programming issues that need to be done at the dealer. I drive a Dodge. Perfect example. The other week, I had a thing with my security fob and my security. The vehicle just would not go right. After everything I looked into and everything I put my computers on it, I said, well, I've got a door module issue. I can go buy another door module. I can go pay somebody to program it. Or I can program it with my software. But my software is not going to give it the latest dealer info that it needs at the time. There are cars from 15, 20 years ago that took, at the time, a certain spark plug. Now there is a better spark plug that helps the fuel burn better. Do I tell people? I'm like, hey, use these spark plugs. You can go buy them. Those will work. But there is a better plug out there. Does it cost more money? Yep. Unfortunately, it does. Everything and everybody knows, I guess the best way to say it, you want the newest, latest iPhone. You want the newest, latest Samsung phone. You want the newest, latest technology. It's the same as vehicles. And people don't get it. And I'll use a phone as an example. Your phone has the latest technology in it. Do you want to be driving a 2021 vehicle with 2021 technology in it? Or do you want to be driving a 2021 vehicle with 2025 technology in it?
Wow.
Yes, they can put a program on it. As long as it will take the new program, it needs to have it in there because it's going to know your lane assist stuff. It's going to know your braking. It's going to know your stopping. And I tell people, you can go to the dealer. They're going to charge you an hour and a half's labor to do it. And some of them, if it's just a quick program, they're going to put the diagnostics thing on there. They're going to give it the quick program, and you're going to be in and out of there quick. But dealing with the dealer, you've still got to wait that time to get set up, get the appointment, get the vehicle there, and go from there. We have the ability to do a lot of different programs, and we have the ability to do a lot of different software updates. The problem is our stuff is aftermarket, so it's a little bit delayed. Our stuff is not going to be 2025 technology in a 2021 vehicle. You're going to have to go to the dealer for that. But if it's not running and not working, we can get it to running and working. So you can get it to the dealer without having to tow it. That's the niche.
Well,
the niche is not having to tow it.
Yeah.
Granted, we can't fix everything. I like to tell people, it's an old catchphrase, we're good, we're not God. Not by any means. We're good. And about 90 to 95% of all issues with vehicles that we go to, we can fix. There's still that small percentage where, hey, this is a computer software issue or this is this. These are conflicting. It's going to have to go to them. I don't want to take people's money, but at the same time, we've got to get paid for what we do. Sure. And I tell people sometimes I will cut back my fee if I know it's got to go to the dealer.
And the bottom line is you're helping some people to get back into their work mode so they can pay their bills, so they can make a living. Right. Somebody's out of a car for a week, a month, 3 months because they can't get to a dealer.
It's devastating.
That can literally, they'll lose their job along the path.
It's devastating.
And you're helping those people to make sure that doesn't happen. And I would argue that most people are going to go, man, I didn't even know I could get some kind of an upgrade to whatever the latest thing. Yep. Get this thing back to where it was, and I was worried about getting to work, making sure I can get from place to place.
Exactly.
I talk about that. That's an interesting point. We don't script much about this show at all, other than just I have a pre-composed list of questions. I never know what my guests are going to say, of course. But as an IT person, I'll talk about a personal experience relative to this. Back when Anheuser-Busch, we had what was called the virus definitions.
Yes.
So there were definitions that literally could come out once a month or once a week, and sometimes there was an emergency release that had to be updated right away. So we had to manually download a file onto a server, install it into the software on that particular server, and go to touch all the servers in the corporation. I think they had like 65 email servers that I built a number of them. I managed a number of them. We had a team, and the breweries and the theme parks, and then corporate. I did the corporate stuff, and all this and that had to be updated. But it was kind of a manual process, and that's how you do it. But you would download, and then you would upload to those servers. Now, because you could see this was coming, now we get updates like all the time that are automated. My phone will get a new update. It'll say, hey, Android 12.1.6.3 is available. We're going to install this right now. You just got to tell us. You don't have an option. They're going to say, but you can delay it, but you can't never do it. Or finally, your phone will become outdated. But you'll just keep asking, okay, you ready to do it now? Boom. And let it go. It does a reboot, does an install.
Exactly.
But it's giving you those latest updates that are critical. Exactly. And why are those things so critical? I would imagine that's because they figured out a problem that causes the car to maybe not steer correctly or causes the car's brakes to not interact properly. Right. And you want to have those updates made all the time. And you can help coach people how to make sure that they stay on tap for those. Can you even apply some of those as necessary for people?
Well, it's not even just the applying it. I've got a customer right now up in North County. He's got a beautiful Malibu. It's a gorgeous car. It's a 2021. And I'm going to use him as an example. He calls me the other week and says, I can't steer my car. He goes, I've looked all over the engine compartment for steering fluid. And he goes, I can't figure this out. I said, you have an electronic steering rack. He's like, I have a what? And a lot of vehicles, Ford Fusions, Chevy Malibus, some of the Tracks, some of the different models of these different manufacturers have electric rack and pinion steerings. Some of it is a computer software glitch where it just shuts it down. Some of it, the motor has gone bad. It's literally cheaper to buy the entire rack and pinion than it is to replace the motor, because you got to take it out, take it apart, put it back together, and then put it back in. Right. And unfortunately, some of these, we talked about car parts places, multi-billion-dollar quarter industry, and they're making tons of money on these parts, but they don't have every part for every vehicle. They have a lot of them, but they don't have all of them. So you have to find it. And that's where we come in. Again, we charge, we come out, we check it, we diagnose it, verify it, and then we fix it.
That is so valuable.
And the fact that right now unfortunately, we're at the realm of shipping, and I'll use the word realm because there's a couple other choice words, but we'll say realm. We've got a shipper that has been delaying his rack and pinion, and we've emailed them, they've emailed back, the part's coming, we know it's coming, he just knows he has to literally play sumo wrestler to drive his car right now. And he's not thrilled about it, but he knows the part's coming. But that's the thing. Again, we went out, we diagnosed it, we checked it. We're like, this is what you got to have. And he's like, are you familiar with doing this? Do them all the time. But there's some dealers who will say, oh, no, you've got to have us do it. We've got the software. We can program the rack once we put it on. We've just got to get it to him so we can put it on. It is what it is.
Well, and back to, you've saved me a tremendous amount of frustration, which I was already going to go to my buddy Joe. Say, Joe, man, this thing just doesn't. I know it can be adapted. And I just took one quick conversation with you.
It's just a program.
You're like, nope, that thing will probably work it better than the Nautilus did once it gets tuned. Because it literally, at this point, I haven't talked to you about this, maybe I mentioned it, it's not braking for me like it's supposed to. See the car in front of me, puts the red light in front of me, but it doesn't brake. All calibration that just needs made.
Right.
Updated.
Right.
Simple. But you got to know who to talk to. Otherwise, I would spend hours and hours researching it, finding it. You can't even call a mechanic and be like, "Hey, by the way, I know you're on the floor fixing a car, but can you stop for 15 minutes at me?" We're fortunate to have this kind of resource here. Thank you for taking the time. And I guess you're not going to spend a lot of time coaching people over the phone because they got an emergent issue often too. And then you say, "Hey, I'll just be there," right? And you come out to them and take care of the issue.
Yeah, and we do get a lot of customers who call up and they want the car diagnosed over the phone. And there are some issues. We can hear a sound or we can hear a noise or they can tell us a couple different check engine lights. And we can do a rough diagnostic on the phone. A lot of mechanics don't want to do it because they think they're going to go broke. I would rather, again, like I said, educate the customer and help the customer. And if it saves the customer time and money, then great. I'd rather save them money because they're going to remember that interaction. And that's a key that I've told different mechanics in the past. You can try to upsell everybody on the planet. Yes, this is one of your points.
Write this one down, everybody.
You can try to upsell and upcharge every customer you want to, but you're never going to have them as a customer. But I had a perfect interaction with a customer a few weeks back where I told them what to do to turn their car off. And I told them, I said, your car may not turn on tomorrow morning, but this is what you got to do to turn it off. They got it off. They were ecstatic.
The car wouldn't shut down.
The car would not shut off. The key thing broke in the key ignition. They did everything, and I finally said, look, this is going to sound bad. You're going to have to go out under the hood, do this and do this. And when I told them what to do, they were like, is that going to work? I said, yeah, it's going to work. And they were like, are you sure? And I said, I'm positive. And the guy's like, well, we've tried disconnecting the battery. I'm like, the alternator is keeping the car running. I said, take the snorkel off the intake, put your hand over the intake, which blocks all the air into it. It will shut the car off. And the guy was like, that's not going to work. I said, trust me. He took the intake snorkel off, put his hand over it. He felt it trying to suck his hand into it. And the car sputtered, hesitated, and then died. He's like, oh my God, I was so worried I was going to burn the car up because her electric wasn't running correctly. Her fans weren't on. Temperature gauges were coming up. They were getting bothered. They were going to blow up the engine. And I was like, you got to shut the car off, and this is what you got to do. Again, I'd rather help the customer in an emergency over the phone. I don't have to come make money on every customer. But a week later, the guy called me up, hey, you helped us shut our car off last week. He's like, right, I've got an issue with this right here. I didn't figure the guy was ever going to call me back, but he's like, no, I've got a rapport with you now. You helped me save my daughter's car. You're a trustworthy person. I can call you. And that's the thing, building the level of trust and level of rapport with each customer. I love the reviews. You saw them. I love it. However, the referral is the other thing that is the key.
Yep.
You know, I'm on this show right now. I know 2 business owners that are going to love talking to you. And so that's the referral. That's the part, the word of mouth business you can't buy. You can never put a price tag on word of mouth business. You do a great job for a customer, they're going to be having dinner with their girlfriends or their guy friends or their buds, and they're going to be like, hey, I had my car fixed for, oh, how much did it cost? No, this is what he did, and this is the guy you need to call. That's the kind of business you cannot buy. You can't put a price tag on it.
That's one of our expert marketing strategies. We talk about it, and it's a matter of just doing what's right to help people, even if it's not. I'll never forget my fraternity. The mantra was at St. Louis University, give expecting nothing thereof.
Exactly.
And I didn't understand it for so long. I'm like, why would you give everybody everything for free? Because you build that reputation, you build that help of aiding the community. And what I've learned is that I just by kind of accident, I was like, I want to give back and go to work with charities. And people saw that's what I do to help people.
Right.
And they'll be like, hey, he's a trustworthy person. You can work with him. Versus the guy who's always trying to make a buck. That word spreads also.
Yeah.
And so then they go, you will lose. And you said customer, I think you meant a long-term customer rather than a one-time customer, right?
Right. And there is a big difference. There is a huge difference in that. You have a lot of shops that will see a customer one time, they hit him for as big of a bill as they can hit him for, and they never see him again. And their thought process is, if I have 50 of those in a month, it was a good month. The problem is we're trying to build a brand and build a business that we can eventually branch out with. And branching out, I have customers who call me from 5, 6, 7 states away, and they're like, Cliff, this broke on my RV. What do I need to do to get it where I can get it to a local shop? What do I need to do to get it where I can get it down the road or even drive back towards you and come see you? I've had other customers call me from different states away. Hey, we know what you charge to come to a vehicle. We know what you charge to do this. We've got a trailer over here. We've had it at a mechanic. This guy can't figure it out. What do we have to pay you to come fix it?
And you'll travel sometime.
And I will travel. We will do it. We will travel.
That's what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to give a quick review. We briefly showed, because I got so involved with our conversation with Cliff, I didn't get to talk about his reviews much in that first show. We did show him off. He's got a 4.8, 105 reviews, and he's just an individual. And you got a couple guys who work with you, but you're not some big shop with thousands of customers.
I'm not a big shop, and the couple of guys, they work sporadically. Like in the middle of the summertime, they'll come help me on a job or two while I'm working on a big job. And it's just 1 or 2 guys, and they only go to a few jobs, and I send them to what I call, I hate to use the term easy, but I send them to something that I know is cookie cutter, cut and dry. Like they're going to go do a tune-up. They're going to go do a starter. They're going to go do an alternator. They don't deal with my customer service the way I deal with it. I've got one guy I'm talking to right now who has amazing customer service. He is good on diesels. So when I get a diesel job, I have him come with me because I want to see how he goes through the different things. And as he gets better in the business, I'll start sending him out to more stuff. But I go to 95% of my jobs. And I tell people, I would rather you have to wait a day and you know I'm coming to it and it be right versus you having to wait 3 to 6 weeks to go to a shop or the dealer. And most of these shops are getting almost as backed up as the dealers are now. And it's not that they're backed up with jobs. They're backed up with jobs they know they can put certain mechanics on. They all have oil change experts. They all have a tire guy. They all have a transmission guy. But they have a mechanic or a secondary mechanic who does the mechanic work. And that's the guy who's always backed up. It's like my door module situation. I know it needs to go to the dealership. I'm not waiting 5 to 8 weeks to carry it up there. So I've been doing every single thing I know to do to make it work for now. And it's working. It's working okay. But I know eventually that working okay is going to stop and it's going to have to go get put in there. I know it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't we all like to have an expert mechanic? Now I feel like I finally do. I know some guys who are mechanics and they're buddies, and I don't even want to bother them. They're running shops, etc. So it's the shop manager, etc. But like to have somebody in your back pocket like this that's available. RedHawks, RedHawks MM, which is mobile mechanic.com. RedHawksMM.com, 252-214-2005. That's because you've been around the country. So he is in St. Louis working here full time.
Yep.
Just doesn't have that area code right there. I'll show you how you can get a tracking forwarding number.
Right.
And tracking helps you determine who's calling you, what's going on.
Oh, yes.
Through Google Voice does that for free. If you want, and then it can help you with that. And it also forwards on, goes to voicemail. And that's just what you do for free, everybody. If you want to talk about marketing automations, you can track everything to figure out where your calls are coming from. Talk to me about ClicksPro, another sponsor of our show. And we're going to hook up our good friend here, Cliff, with an account of ClicksPro. I'm giving him an unbelievable deal with that for a long period of time. That might change, so I'm not going to announce the amount right here, but it's going to be well more than he would ever need, and then it will prove that it's working and won't have cost him a dime. Unless he wants us to help him set it up, we just do that on a per-case basis. So thank you for taking the time here. I wanted to say, hey, man, you're helping us. You're helping the world. We want to help you back. This is a great opportunity for you guys to get to know somebody who knows what they're talking about. You can tell what he's doing here to change the world. All right, if we get into our last couple of things we want to talk about. We totally went off script. I don't think I asked a single question off my list.
Yet again.
Because you got into so much of what I said, well, we covered that. Well, we covered that. Cost analysis, we talked about. One thing that sets your businesses apart, we certainly talked about. The mistake people have made, definitely talked about that. Time when you help the client, we talked about that. Technology, we talked about also. Tell me the process. Is it pretty simple? How does somebody get a hold of you? Go to your Google reviews. Now we're going to have your website. His website is getting updated right now. I'm helping him with that as well. And you'll have a website, call, text, email, all that will be available. Get a hold of you. And how quickly can somebody expect? Like you said, you mentioned earlier, I want to clarify this. If somebody has a problem and they need it done immediately, you can fix that in, fill that in if you can. But you said sometimes you'll say, oh, we'll come out there in a day or two. And that's because they're going, hey, I don't need it fixed right now. I need it fixed quick.
Right.
And they couldn't get into a dealer or whatever for 4 months. Well, they can't wait 4 months, but they can wait a day or two. If it's a critical thing, many times you can fit that in. Depends if you're tied up in a critical thing currently. But if you're working on a big job, you can take a break and help somebody. And that's how adept you are at helping people.
Exactly.
Get there.
The easiest thing with us is you can either call the phone number 252-214-2005. You can just do a simple Google search, mobile mechanic near me, stuff like that. We're going to pop up on that list. We've been rated by Google. We've been rated by the Better Business Bureau. So we're going to pop up on there. We're on about 7 different media sites. I'm not all media guru type. I had people in place to set things up, and people will call me. One of the first couple questions that we get asked, are you really in the St. Louis area? How far do you travel? We do this part of Illinois. We will go as far as, the Greenville, Ava area, up almost to Springfield. I've done a few jobs that way. I've gone down the other side of Columbia, Illinois. We do South County, Arnold, Dupo, go over past frickin' O'Fallon and stuff like that. Tons of jobs in the middle of the St. Louis area, St. Louis Metro East. I went and did a Volvo 18-wheeler the other week over just north of Jefferson City. That guy had actually called 2 mechanics near him.
Stay tuned for more, everybody. Get up.